Okay, so here's a review of the notes for Unit 9, where we're solving systems of equations graphically and algebraically. And I've written two systems on here. The first one is y equals x squared plus 7x plus 12. The other is y equals 2x plus 8. And then the second system is y equals x squared plus 7x plus 12 and y equals negative 2 or negative x plus 2. Notice in both of them that our squared, our quadratic equation, or our parabola, is the same. So we only have to graph our parabola once. But then we're going to have two different lines. So let's start by graphing that parabola. Now I'm going to graph it by graphing it without a table. So using the x-intercept, the y-intercept, and the vertex. So to graphing parabola, so I'm going to find my x-intercepts first. Remember, to find x-intercepts, you put the equation equal to 0. So 0 equals x squared plus 7x plus 12. Now you're going to factor the x squared plus 7x plus 12. Again, we've already gone through factoring, so this is Unit 9, factoring was Unit 8, so I'm not going to show all the steps just to kind of speed things up. Just trust me. The factors are x plus 4 and x plus 3. Using the zero product property, I can set each factor to 0, and I get that x equals negative 4, x equals negative 3. So one of my x-intercepts is at negative 4, 0. So I'm going to go over to 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4. I'm going to put a dot, and at negative 3. Okay, let's find our y-intercept. Y-intercept is easy. Put 0 in for x, so y is going to equal 0 squared plus 7 times 0 plus 12. So y equals 12. Okay, so I'm going to go up to 12. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to put a dot there. Okay. Now the last thing I have to find for my parabola is I want to find the vertex. Okay, so to find the vertex, I'm going to take my two x values from my x-intercepts, and I'm going to add them together. So negative 4x, or negative 4 plus negative 3 divided by 2, and that gives me negative 3.5. Put this into my equation, so y equals negative 3.5 squared plus 7 times negative 3.5 plus 12. And that gets me, I'm going to use my calculator to speed things up. Negative 0.25. Okay. Now normally we would be able to graph everything from right here, but I want it to be very accurate. So I'm going to kind of fill in things a little bit. So I'm going to fill in negative 1 and negative 2 just to kind of fill so I can see how my parabola looks. Because right now it's kind of spread out, and I want to kind of clean it up a little bit. So I'm going to put a negative 1 in. So negative 1 squared plus 7 times negative 1 plus 12. Well, that's 1 minus 7 plus 12, and that's a 6. So negative 1, 6, I have a point. Okay, so that actually is going to help me out here a little bit, because that kind of gives me a better idea of what my parabola looks like. Now, remember with parabolas you have mirror points. So I have a mirror point right here. and one way over here. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to. The pencil is not cooperating. Okay. Okay, so there's our parabola. So now let's graph our first line, y equals 2x plus 8. Okay. So I'm going to go up to 8. And I'm going to put a dot there. I'm going to go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. Okay. So drawing my line. Okay, so let's connect these. Hold on, let me redo that. Okay, and there's our line. Now if you look, we're looking again for the system. We're solving the system, so we're looking for points of intersection. Our points of intersection is where that line and that parabola intersect. So in this case, it's right here and right here. So our solutions for number 1 are negative 1, 6, and negative 4, 0. Okay, so there's the solutions for the first system. And we're done with it, because all we're doing is solving by graphing. So now let's graph the second one. So on my second equation, I'm going to start at 2. I'm going to go down 1, over 1. So there's my slope. So let's graph the line. As I try to get this to go right through where I need it to. There we go. That's close enough. Alright, so if you look here, this time though, our point of intersection is not a nice point. It's here and here. So I'm not going to be able to count like I did before. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to estimate. So for number 2, so for the first point, the one on the left, it's about negative 1.5, up 1, 2, 3, negative 1.5, comma, hold on here, let me write this a little bit better. Negative 1.5, comma, 3.9, and then the other point is maybe negative 6.5. Comma 8.4. Now it's okay the fact that you are having to estimate here. That is okay. Estimating is not a bad thing when it comes to graphing. It's something that you will have to do. Okay, so we've done the first part of this. We've solved it by graphing. We have one system where we have exact values for our solutions, and we have one system where we had to estimate. All right, now we're going to solve each one algebraically. So let's go to the next screen, and I'm going to solve them separately, algebraically. So for the first one, we had our first system was y equals x squared plus 7x plus 12, and our other equation is y equals 2x plus 8. Solve it algebraically. The first thing you do is make sure they're both in y equals form. And then you're going to set them equal to each other. Now, in order to solve a quadratic, that's the x squared, we have to get it equal to 0. So I'm going to have to minus the 2x from both sides and minus the 8. And I get 0 equals x squared plus 5x plus 4. Now I'm going to see if it factors, and it does. So again, to save time, I'm going to factor it. X plus 4, x plus 1. Do my zero product property. And I get x equals negative 4, x equals negative 1. So there's my x values. But I'm not done. I need to find my y values. So my y values come from the original equations, not the where we put them equal to each other. So way back in the very beginning, I am talking about these two equations. And all you do is pick one. Well, the easiest one would be to work with the 2x plus 8. So I'm going to put each value into that equation. And I get y equals negative 8 plus 8. Well, that's just 0. So my solution is negative 4, comma, 0. Over here, I get y equals negative 2 plus 8. Well, that's just 6. So my solution is negative 1, comma, 6. Now those numbers should seem familiar to you. I'm going to flip back to the previous screen. And notice that our original solutions were negative 1, 6, negative 4, 0, which are exactly the same as what I have here. They should match. The reason they should match is that they are two methods for solving the exact same equations. Our equations didn't change, just the way we solved them. And that's an important question for you to remember. Alright, so now let's do number 2. Let's solve that one algebraically. This one you're going to need a calculator. So start off with x squared plus 7x plus 12, and our second equation is y equals negative x plus 2. You're going to do the exact same thing we did before. We're going to put them equal to each other. Once you put them equal to each other, make them equal 0, so I'm going to add x to both sides, and I'm going to subtract 2. And I get 0 equals x squared plus 8x plus 10. Now I got to factor it. Well, I'm off to the side. As you know, I don't normally do this. I'm going to put my diamond problem. X squared times 10 is 10x squared. 8x goes here. The factors of 10, so the numbers that multiply to be 10 are 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. None of those add up to be an 8, so this is not factorable. So now we're going to have to go to the quadratic formula. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus that looks nasty, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Again, your quadratic formula will not have any variables in it. You're just using the numbers in front. So my b is 8, so it's negative 8 plus or minus the square root 8 squared minus 4 times a is 1 and c is 10 over 2 times 1. And that equals negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 64 minus 4 times 1 is 4 times 10 is 40 all over 2. So that's negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 24 over 2. Now, because normally you would try to just simplify and then leave it alone, leave it an exact value. But because we want to solve it and we need to be able to find the y value, we're going to have to keep going. If we were to leave it here, it'd be an exact value, but we're going to need to go, so we have to use our calculator. And we need to take the square root we need to do the square root of 24, and that's, hold on one second, my calculator's giving issues. Okay, and that's going to be 4.89. You want to go out 2 decimal places, divided by 2. So now to get my x values, I'm going to split this up, give myself a little room here, so x equals negative 8 plus 4.89 divided by 2, and so that's negative 8 plus 4.89, and that's negative 3.11 divided by 2. It's negative 1.56. Now I'm going to do the other one. X equals negative 8 minus 4.89 divided by 2 minus 4.89 is negative 12.89 divided by 2 gives me negative 6.45. So I've got my x values. Now I need to find my y. So again, same as before, I'm going to just put it into one of my equations. So I'm going to put it into my linear equation. Each one, y equals negative of negative 1.56 plus 2, and that's going to give me 3.56. So for my first one, it's negative 1.56, comma 3.56. Now do the same for the other one. Y equals negative of negative 6.45 plus 2, and it's going to give me 8.45. So my solution is negative 6.45, comma 8.45. All right. So now let's go back, just like we did before. We're going to go back and look at our solutions from our graph. And when I do that, I get negative 1.5, comma 3.9. That was pretty close. Negative 6.5, comma 8.4. That's pretty close as well. Notice they're not exactly the same. The reason they're not exactly the same is because I calculated it here using the quadratic formula. I estimated on the graph. That is extremely important that you remember. This one, this way of doing it algebraically, is where it's been calculated. The other way, we estimated. You're going to have a little bit of a difference, and that's okay. So this is basically a review of Unit 9. If you have questions, make sure you come in with those questions.